We'll see if any of y'all join me.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for sharing that, man. Is it ID Coop next?
Yeah. ID Coop, what's up, brother?
Oh, wait. Let me go to that lady who was she was here earlier. Sorry. Who's that girl? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I do want to apologize. I wasn't trying to be rude. This is the first time I've ever participated in one of these. So I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to sound disrespectful.
You're fine.
No worries at all.
Okay. So this is all very interesting to me. And like I said, I haven't done one of these before, but I've started to follow many of you and started doing a few of my own posts. And I just wanted to share that my background is I used to be an actress, and I have a lot of friends that are in the industry. And when I've been friends with these people since I was 14, I was a child actress. And when Trump got voted in the first time in 2017, I lost all of my friends, not because any of them knew who I was voting for. But Natalie Portman was my best friend, and I lived at her house during the Black Swan filming. And she took me to several parties for Cory Booker. And it was very interesting being in that room because I was always a Republican, and I'm a very big Christian. I've got my kids all enrolled in a Christian school right now. And Natalie at that time, and I, this is back in probably 2007 or 2009, we were talking a lot about, she wanted me to come to a lot of events that had to do with, Jews, and I knew a lot of her family was over in Israel, all involved in the wars going on over there. And I'm a little bit nervous, so I'm sorry if I'm going on a little bit. I've never done this before. It's kind of weird, but
no, you're doing good.
I guess I don't know a lot about politics as such, but I do know a lot about the Hollywood world. And my family is all lawyers. My grandfather was a lawyer to a senator in New York not too long ago. And so I think what I just want to say is, one of my best friends is close to getting engaged to one of the billionaires out there. And it's interesting because he had Trump, they had dinner not too long ago. And at the time when he was broken up with my best friend, he was dating this girl. She's a Ukrainian woman. And she's essentially, I don't know how to put it other than she's a whore. And what I learned from this is that a lot of these women are sent over, as we all have seen with Epstein. They're sent over to be with these men. And we know that Melania is one of those women. I should also say that a lot of my friends are models as well. So I've been pretty in this world since I was 20. I'm 45. And I couldn't understand because she went to dinner and she recorded the entire thing, her meal with Trump and Elon and Melania, and she put it up on her Instagram. And she did get in trouble. The Secret Service took her phone away. This is right before the election for this year. Sorry, for 2025. This occurred. And my friend's boyfriend is involved in getting, he's involved with a production company that currently is going to be releasing the Melania documentary through Amazon. So I believe that that's one of the reasons why they were having the meal together. And of course, I, at the time, was a huge fan of Trump, and, was very interested to hear all what's going on there. And so my girlfriend, they get back together and she says, well, my boyfriend, because I'm not going to say what his name is, he, basically kicked her out of the house, but he had bought her an engagement ring. He bought her a $3 million engagement ring. Now, my girlfriend has been with this guy on and off for 15 years, and he's never once bought her something like that. And I couldn't understand why. He is watched by his family 24/7. And they're very, very careful what they do with him. And they have to pass everything he does. And I couldn't understand how he would be allowed to give this woman, a Ukrainian whore, a $3 million engagement ring, buy her house in Tennessee that she was living in with her kid. He has since kicked her out, supposedly. Of course, she, so, and not my best friend. And she's a Canadian citizen, my best friend. And now as I've been listening and thinking more and listening to you folks and reading more about things and doing my own rabbit holes, I'm realizing that, my girlfriend, number one, is a Canadian, and number two, she's not a whore. And you cannot, when she can't be bought, is what I'm trying to say. She's not into money at all. She's got plenty of her own money from modeling. And I think that that's part of the reason why he was so interested in being with this woman. And I also think it's part of the reason why more wasn't done to her when she videoed the entire dinner that he had with Trump and Melania and Musk and put it on her Instagram. To me, I couldn't believe that she would do something like that. I get pictures. My girlfriend's gone down to Trump's place plenty of times with this boyfriend of hers. And I've gotten pictures of what his place is like in Malaga, whatever it's called there. I always want to call it Malaga after the tequila because that's what I like to drink, but Mar-a-Lago. And so I think what I'm trying to say, I'll sum up because I don't want to drag on much more here, is that from what I gather after being in these groups for such a long time, and also Natalie, I remember when she went to Ivanka's wedding, she's very good friends with Jared. I was in Harvard. I did actually DM some pictures of me with a bunch of Natalie and her Harvard friends and I together. They're all in finance. She stopped being friends with all of them. I'm actually probably one of the only few people that she's remained friends with. She cuts people off very, very quickly, and I couldn't understand why she cut off a lot of her Harvard friends. And it's because what this all really boils down to, and I'm sorry if I sound like a nut, but it really is what I believe. I really believe it all boils down to sex trafficking. I really believe that it all boils down to these elites, these super, super wealthy people that don't want to lose their power. And I think that one of the reasons why Natalie stopped being friends with some of these people is she knew that. She has spoken out a lot about Israel. She has spoken against Netanyahu. She does not like him at all. And knowing her as I have since the age of 14 and literally living in her home and knowing, I went to her wedding, she is exactly who she says she is. And I'm only pressing that not because it's Natalie Portman, because I guess I want to say she can't speak up very loudly because of who she is in the industry. And I think in terms of Trump, I don't think that Trump recognized, he knew he was in the Epstein files. He knew it damn well. But I don't think he recognized how deep this spider web went in terms of how really wrapped up in politics it is. And I did a very deep dive on Deloro there. Out of Connecticut, because I'm like, why in the hell would anyone in bougie Connecticut vote for that woman? She is the Westport, Martha Stewart, Connecticut, any of that. My family lives there. I'm like, I don't understand this. Her father was part of the plan to basically get rid of all the immigrants and try to.
Thank you very much. I don't mean to cut you off, but just got some other hands. I appreciate you. Here's what I'll say about Natalie Portman and Trump. So regarding Natalie Portman, would you mind muting your mic for me?
Sure, sorry.
Okay, yeah, no problem. So regarding Natalie Portman, it's good to hear that I guess she's against this stuff, but where are these people? Why isn't she holding a press conference saying that Hollywood is full of satanic pedophiles and I'm no longer being a part of it? Why isn't she giving a public resignation, right? It's great to hear that she might be against this stuff, but it's the job of celebrities to speak out about that stuff. When you stay silent, you're allowing that evil culture to continue. So if you do know her, tell her to speak out. Tell her to get real, no disrespect, but get real and have a press conference about it and expose it. Maybe make some TikTok videos or just videos so TikTok won't censor it and just get it out on X or other platforms or whatever. And then that goes with Trump too. So if the idea is that Trump came into politics, he wanted to stop Epstein, and then he realized how deep it was. Well, that's too bad. He needs to have a press conference and tell us what's going on. He needs to, if it's all of Washington, D.C., then we need to burn it all down. I don't care what happens. If it's Wall Street tycoons, we need to burn Wall Street down. This evil cancer needs to be eradicated from our society by any means necessary. And I can't remember who it was who had a poll that said, I think it was Zaganel who had a poll, and he said, if burning the whole thing down, if taking down Epstein meant burning the whole American system down, would you burn it? I think it was like upwards of 90% of the people said yes. It was wild. So yeah, those are good points. I appreciate your point, and thank you for that. We'll go to is the ID Coop next. Thank you, sir.
I threw up in the nest an hour ago. Trump said, "I don't think there's anything that's going to get me in heaven." Okay, I really don't. I think I'm not maybe heaven bound. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make heaven, but I've made life a lot better for a lot of people. Very weird stuff. Go ahead, ID Coop, brother man.
I thank my right honourable friend, Mr. Speaker of the House, Godfrey, followed by Deputy Speakers, Mr. Keith, as well as Madam Deputy Speaker Tisha. I hope I'm saying your name right. Firstly, thank you for the engaging series of discussions. Secondly, it's now 1:04 a.m. UK time, October 13th, Monday 2025. So to any Canadian in the space, happy Thanksgiving in advance from the future. So regarding key contributions, I would like to stress, and my right honourable friend, Mr. Deputy Speaker of the House, Keith, greatly articulated the developments regarding the Ukrainian conflict. Regarding Donald Trump talk about Tomahawks being sent to Ukraine, again, it's basically a red herring because he's basically trying to gain leverage against the Russians because now he's realized he literally doesn't have any cards to play. Regarding what's happening in Petrovsk, that's basically the last stronghold in Donbass, which is not only important for the rail lines or logistics, but also because it's a fortified area as well. And once that stronghold falls down, the rest of your claims flat land. There's nothing to defend on the Dnieper River, meaning that basically from then onwards, the Russian advance will just accelerate. So that's one important point I wanted to raise. Two, if you're looking at the economic sphere, we will need to remember that Donald Trump has reignited the trade war, especially the fact that he was angry that China decided to put restrictions on exports of rare earth materials, which is heavily used in military applications, as well as the machines which are used to make our microchips and semiconductors, regarding the magnets, as well as the UAV machines and lithography machines, and the fact that during the so-called truce, the United States was still putting sanctions and restrictions on exports, not only regarding the semiconductor industry in China, but the United States was also trying to openly stifle China's shipping industry, especially by levying levies against any ships made in China that stops in American ports. So now the Chinese have rightly retaliated. So this is now going to have an impact on the military-industrial complex, as well as TMSC in Taipei, as well as also, to my knowledge, all the other key players in the United States military-industrial complex. So regarding the issue of more war, you cannot go into war if you have a poor economy as well as the lack of an industrial ecosystem that's self-sustaining, especially because the United States gutted it and decided to do financialization of its economy since the 1980s. So when you're looking at the multiple front wars, the United States weapon stocks has already depleted itself, and now with the restrictions on rare earth materials, which is going to be hitting the MIC even harder now, in layman terms, the United States basically can't afford more wars on multiple fronts as well as replenish their weapon stocks. And if you talk about the economy, now that this trade war has escalated, the bonds markets have now lost confidence once again. Now the It's unpredictable. And also the fact that, more importantly, in the context of the European Union, the fact that you had Ursula von der Leyen and her cronies, excuse my language, Mr. Speaker, always saying we need to remilitarize, NATO needs to spend 5%. Basically, the Europeans are not going to put 5% towards their defense because they don't have the industrial ecosystem to do it, because they gutted it. The whole premises of how the European Union had this prosperity was the Americans will be here to defend us. We get cheap energy and resources from Russia, and China's markets are open, and we can just put most of our money towards our domestic economy. So that way we benefit while everyone else is busy doing what we want. But now that they burned relations with Russia, their access to cheap source of energy is basically destroyed. Hence, energy prices are going up. So whenever you're hearing about we're going to remilitarize, how? You don't have cheap energy, so you're economically uncompetitive. So now, if anything, you've already gutted your industrial base. You have a shortage supply of human skilled labor, and now due to Donald Trump's tariffs and the free trade deal framework, which basically Ursula von der Leyen capitulated in Scotland to Trump, the Europeans literally don't have a leg to stand on or any leverage. They're basically vassals, especially if you're following what's happening in France with the debt crisis, or what's happening in the UK as well with Rachel Reeves and the up-and-coming autumn statement in November 26. In layman terms, we are financially screwed. Our debt here is £2.7 trillion under investment due to continuation of Margaret Thatcher's disastrous policies. We don't have an industrial base to speak of. So that's just something I wanted to raise here. Energy prices are going up, so industries are uncompetitive in both Europe and the UK. So when it comes to talk of we're going to remilitarize, it's not practically feasible. It's all just literally stupid rhetoric. And to make matters more worse, when Ursula von der Leyen basically did that announcement of we're going to invest, I think, 500 or 800 million euros to a remilitarization program, it's based on servicing debt bonds, euro debt bonds. And if you do that, anyone that holds a euro bond literally loses confidence, which weakens the currency, which is already going through a fragile state. So in layman terms, Europe is literally a dead man walking. And as for the issue of the United States, they're losing the economic war in terms of trade. And regarding the military war for its proxy with Ukraine, it's basically lost as well. And so whenever you're hearing the issues of the Tomahawks or the Taurus, it's not going to be the Ukrainians launching them. You're going to need Americans to be operating the system. You're going to be needing Germans to operate the system. And then that's when you're going to have World War III. And because their weapon stocks are depleted, they're going to be losing badly in a few weeks, because the weapon stocks has literally declined substantially, because they anticipated that when this war escalated in 2022, they anticipated that Russia's economy is not diversified, it's weak. If we just do all these economic sanctions and we get regime change, and then we go to China from there while stealing Russia's foreign policy. But the fact that these predictions have spectacularly failed, now we can be relieved. And, well, as much as Donald Trump is annoying, you have to give credit that the man does deserve a Nobel Peace Prize for making China and India resolve their issues, as well as making the BRICS have deep cooperation, and also exposing all these things in such a way that people can't say excuse of, oh, I didn't know this was going to happen, especially when you had Joe Biden being at the wheel with his disgusting corruption regarding the fact that his son was on the Burisma board, and the fact that as vice president, he got rid of a prosecutor that was looking into this corruption, and he bragged about it at an event. So really, we're lucky that the neocons' desire to destroy Russia is clearly now failed, because they don't have the economic might anymore. And regarding Iran, the fact that the 12-day war between Israel and Iran, they anticipated that a decapitation strike would be successful. Iran would then have a regime change, and we'll end up having a puppet we want through that fake prince who's living out in Los Angeles. But now that has failed completely, because it became a war of attrition, in layman terms, they now can't juggle more wars on multiple fronts, is what I'm saying. So the fact that now, basically speaking, because of Donald Trump's actions, now no one really trusts American diplomacy. Regarding the trade war, the Chinese have completely turned away. Regarding the Anchorage summit in Alaska, the Russians have now completely seen that whatever terms and conditions the Americans say, they clearly do not deliver through actions. And regarding the nuclear negotiations between Iran and the United States during the assassination of the key higher-ups in Tehran, now the Iranians don't trust them. They've ceased cooperation with the IAEA, and next year, if anyone's familiar with the START Treaty, which usually places restrictions on number of nuclear warheads that Russia and the United States is supposed to usually keep each other informed about, well, you can kiss that deal goodbye because Donald Trump has basically destroyed whatever trust there was left. So in layman terms...
Doesn't that expire in February, ID Coop, I think, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
February next year.
The JCPOA expires in like 5 days or something, I think.
Correct. And now that the JCPOA is effectively dead now because of the snapback sanctions. But luckily, the fact that China and Russia don't recognize the UN sanctions because they've seen how the diplomacy was openly undermined. So now Iran has initiated barter trade with China. And the fact that now India is purchasing Russian oil using yuan, or aka renminbi. So basically, the dollar is beginning to lose its leverage when it comes to global trade. And just to quickly round up as well, to my knowledge, we are now in an interesting situation where with the weakening of the US dollar, it makes American exports cheaper abroad, but then at the same time, it makes importations expensive in the US, meaning that any countries that rely heavily on American imports in their countries now makes American products now kind of inadvertently more expensive, as well as a political hot potato. So in layman terms, we're now literally seeing the US has destroyed itself. Donald Trump's ambitions for we're going to reindustrialize the United States using tariffs has now completely failed because it's weaponized tariffs, for one or better word. You need a long-term industrial policy of 10 to 15 years to make it effective. And the fact that they decided to just accelerate without really thinking it through, as well as weaponizing tariffs, which is never supposed to happen, he's basically undermined his own policy. Now, it is also more crucial to stress that the Democrats, which is also a monstrosity of a party, I'm happy that they're sinking politically. Just like here in the United Kingdom, we're seeing the Conservatives are dead. People are sick and tired of uni parties and how central politics got us in this mess. So really, I'm actually happy that now people are having that challenging insight. And regarding World War III, I can't really see it happen because, again, you need a strong economy, you need an industrial ecosystem to make it work. Now, due to financialization and the neoliberal reforms based on neoliberal economics, they've gutted their industrial bases, they outsourced manufacturing, and they openly thought that the world would stay the same with the Bretton Woods system post-World War II, but they've destroyed it. They've destroyed it completely. We're now going back to the world of the 19th century where you had multiple powers with their own spheres of influence. And now we're finally seeing a diversified mechanism of financial lending in place regarding the BRICS New Development Bank, regarding trade in national currencies. And also, just like Donald Trump said to Zelensky, you do not have the cards. And I'm not being mean to any American here. I'm not trying to offend anyone. But truth be told, we should be celebrating that we're finally seeing the end of the unipolar world. It was an aberration in international relations, and I am happy to be alive to say it's finally ending. So to all my Yankee right honorable friends across the pond, I pray you hunt every rhino. I pray you get rid of every donkey, because we do not need these disgusting parties. You need real, true opposition, and you need real serious policies. Not these fake neocons, not these fake establishment figures, because honestly, none of them don't even know what politics is. Look at their background. Finance and law is where they commonly come from, and you can clearly see they do not know what the hell they're doing. It's just incompetence. So really, I say to end everything on a note before I give the floor, because I know many of my right honorable friends on the floor are eager to jump in now. I'll say always questioned everything, always keep up to date, because right now we're seeing the world is changing fast. We're seeing the end of the Roman Empire again in terms of how Emperor Nero took over a failing empire, and the empire's all but collapsed at this point, if anyone's familiar with history. So with that, I thank my right honourable friends, Mr. Speaker of the House Godfrey, as well as Deputy Speakers, Mr. Keith and Madam Tisha. Thank you for facilitating this great series of discussions. I give the floor back unless anyone has any inquiries they would like to put forward. The floor is yours, Mr.
Thank you, ID. Oh, Tisha, do you want to? I had a question for him, but if you want to go ahead of me, please.
I was just going to say thank you, but go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, ID Coop. You're always a wealth of knowledge, and while you were speaking, I think we gained about 30 people to the space. So, always a pleasure to hear you, sir. I think you're right. I think we're seeing the death throes of the Western Empire, both Europe and America. And to boil it down to brass tacks, I think I do believe that these governments are ran by Satanists, by people who worship demons. And I think that the public has had enough, and their policies were so evil over the years that they became untenable. That pushing a bioweapon vaccine on people, flooding borders with immigrants, engaging in endless wars. These policies have essentially broken, among many others, these policies have broken the West. And would you argue that the West is, based on what you're saying, my interpretation is that they're in a state of free fall right now. They project an aura of confidence, but really they're desperate, which is why you have Trump trying to invoke the Insurrection Act. Why he's losing support left and right, why he seems to be fumbling on the Ukraine issue and Russia, and why Europe and certain people in the U.S. are so desperate to try and kick off World War III and other things like that, because they're facing the rising tide of a public backlash that they've never seen before. The public is utterly disgusted with these governments, both in Europe and in the U.S. They're disgusted with all their policies, and especially, I think what's really doing it for a lot of people, at least in America, it's trying to sweep the COVID bioweapon under the rug, trying to get Fauci and Albert Bourla and others off the hook. But I also think that it's trying to stoke up World War III that nobody wants either. It's so many things, but also too, it's the technocratic slave state, right? Nobody voted for Palantir. Nobody on Earth wants a digital ID. Nobody wants a social credit score system. It's only these Satanists who run Europe that want this. You talk to anybody in the street, nobody's saying, oh, I want Palantir to tell me if I can use my bank account tomorrow. I want Palantir to dictate what I can say on Twitter and Facebook and other sites. So what do you think about all that, Coop? I know it's a bit of a loaded question, but my main question is do you think we're seeing the dying death throes of this Western Satanist power structure, and that they are so desperate to stay in control that that's why we're seeing the things I just mentioned?
To my right honourable friend, Mr. Speaker, thank you for putting forward your inquiry. I would definitely say that we are witnessing the collapse of the Western-led hegemonic world order, and I mean in terms of globalization based on neoliberalism, because now that people see that neoliberalism economic development policies have proven to be disastrous unless unsuccessful and unappealing, we're literally seeing the collapse of their dominance. I mean, I wish I mentioned this earlier in that, Russia's frozen reserves in Belgium, the fact that now you're having the Europeans openly planning on how to steal it, and basically the Belgian prime minister's openly saying, I don't want this to be stolen because this will destroy our credibility in terms of financial trust and mechanism in the euro. So I forgot to tell you this, but this is also another thing as well, that we're seeing the desperation of the West as we speak. that they're desperate to maintain dominance. But now, as we've seen with the sanctions have not had the desired effect of regime change in Russia. As just like how Donald Trump, as well as Joe Biden's trade wars and restrictions against China regarding economic sabotage.
What do you mean by how they're trying to steal like 150 or something billion in frozen Russian assets, right?
Yes, sir. The European Union's openly been talking about wanting to steal it, confiscate it, steal it to Ukraine, or even put a new loan to Ukraine while leveraging that frozen reserve. And the Prime Minister of Belgium has openly promoted his skepticism, as well as the head of Euroclear, saying if you go through with this, any last bit of trust and credibility the euro has will be dead. No one will want to store their assets or reserves in Europe ever again. That includes the Saudis. And the issue is, because it's a legal matter and has international ramifications, that means that Euroclear will be unable to do business in Asia. Because, to my knowledge, the Russia Central Bank has decided to do court proceedings against Euroclear regarding this situation, meaning that should the outcome of that court case be in favor of the Russian delegation, it results in Euroclear being unable to do business in Asia for Asian clients. Whether you're in East Asia, Southeast Asia, or Central or Western Asia, that means Euroclear will not be able to store any of their assets. So that's a major ramification I wanted to raise here. So that's one or better word for one. I hope I've been able to address that aspect. Two, regarding the West, I mean, you need to look at the soft power. Hollywood does not, the propaganda effect of Hollywood as well as Western cable media mainstream in developing countries is not effective anymore. Its policy in terms of how it was effectively communicated has gone. Yes, we know USAID, quote unquote, died, but it's now under the Department of War. So now that's openly affiliated to the US government. Now every country doesn't have any excuse to say, it's not ambiguous. Oh, there's no real connection. It's like now it blatantly is. So we're lucky now that that truth is now exposed for them. So the fact that now people are skeptical trusting Western NGOs, you need to look at the country Georgia, for example. The fact that you had the European Union as well as the US NGOs openly trying to rig the Georgian elections to try and get their puppet it to be prime minister so they can open a second front against Russia. And the fact that they've been open about it just shows you how ineffective that their strategy is now compared to, say, 2008, when they had that Russia-Georgian war, which resulted in Georgia losing. And then, of course, the Europeans were like, you do this, NATO will protect you and all. And the Georgian prime minister said, no, we're not. We're not falling for that. We literally suffered because of your stupidity. To my knowledge, the puppet former president's now in jail in Georgia, and the current former president who's openly trying to promote regime change is just literally a puppet that has no job. So clearly, we're lucky that their strategies are beginning to be ineffective in that sphere. But I will say, if you're looking at the recent Gen Z protests that have taken place in Nepal, as well as Indonesia, you are seeing how through coordinated action, the West are still trying to cause as much chaos to get their puppets in position. But we're fortunate that now, at least to an extent, it's not as effective as it once was. And regarding Venezuela, I did forget to tell you that, to my knowledge, following the Nobel Prize being awarded to this lady who clearly is now the puppet that they want to install in Venezuela, we know very well that Venezuela is sitting on large oil. The United States right now is worried about oil energy price. And so to weaken, quote unquote, Russia, it's, if we invade Venezuela, take their oil, we'll weaken the oil price, which would then hit the Russian economy. But one, that's not going to go down well with the OPEC members regarding the Middle East. Saudi Arabia and co. are like, we do not want a lower price because then this will result in austerity in our economies and cause unrest because we're still heavily reliant on hydrocarbons. Whereas with Russia, they diversified their economy since 2014. and they always keep their oil cap, to my knowledge, at $40 per barrel. So they always keep it low whenever they're doing their federal budgets, to my knowledge. Hydrocarbons does not constitute the majority of Russia's exports or the only major source of growth in the Russian economy. So we are fortunate that basically the West have screwed themselves in terms of bad, disastrous policies, and the fact that they've gone high on their own supply of arrogance, of assuming, oh, everyone's weak, we're still strong, and these guys will do what we say. And now that China, for example, has resumed a trade war, and you're seeing the Americans reacting in terms of, this isn't bold, this is panic. If you look how Donald Trump said, Xi Jinping just made a small mistake, it's no big deal. But deep down, you can already see he's panicked because he didn't expect this in terms of now that China's diversified its supply. When it comes to LNG markets, to my knowledge, if anyone followed the recent signing of the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline, all the gas that was originally supposed to go to Europe via Nord Stream has now been redirected to China as a result, and the transit country is Mongolia. So in layman terms, now that China has a stable supply of pipeline gas and natural energy coming from that neck of the woods, that now means that they'll always have a stable supply of cheap gas as a result, which means that LNG prices will potentially go down, which hits the US LNG sector hard because China is one of its biggest purchasers. And now that they're now turning to other sources, it's now going to hit them harder now that you have this new pipeline. So the Europeans are the biggest losers.
All right, I just want to be clear. I'm going to break this down for y'all. I stream these spaces on X. They're live spaces, okay? These are people talking from all around the world. Okay, you get very interesting characters. They have very interesting takes. Okay, not all of them are mine. Not all of them are not mine. Yeah, whatever. So this is public conversation. So try not to blame me or my channel or the people in this chat for what the conversation is being had. Come on, bro. Oh shit, I hit the wrong button. Sorry. I'm gonna go back to... And now I don't have fucking audio, of course. Of course I don't.
Reading an article that mentioned that. But thank you very much for bringing that up. I need to definitely look back on that. The only other significant thing I can contribute quickly is regarding the Association of Southeast Asian States as well as China. They've all agreed to increase use of national currencies so that way they avoid speculatory attacks and not rely on the dollar for their trade. And if anyone's familiar with Southeast Asia, that would be Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia. And combined, that's a population of 700 million people, rising middle class, and the fact that that region alone literally is strategic in terms of economics. In layman terms, the US dollar gets dropped out, you can't have another Thailand currency crisis like you did in 1992. So I hope I've been able to best address your inquiries, Mr. Speaker, as well as Mr. Deputy Speaker Keith. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, ID Coop. I always
Thank you as always, brother, man.
Yeah, always appreciate your geopolitical prowess, sir. Thank you very much, man. Keith, who is next down there? I'm sorry, I haven't. Or Tisha.
I think it's Tavana and then Sam.
It's Giovanna.
Go ahead, Tavana.
Deepest apologies for the intervention, Mr. Tavana. It's now late for me over here. It's 1:30 a.m. So I'd like to wish each and everyone good luck and good health. And once again, thank you very much for giving me the floor and participating. Keep up the good work on all these great informative series of discussions and spaces. And to Madam Sarah, who's in the audience, spasiba, and keep up the good work with DD Geopolitics. Thank you all. Good luck and good health. Keep steadfast. And I hope each and everyone's enjoying a nice, good cup of tea. Except for anyone in Massachusetts. Don't you dare think of throwing anything in that Boston Harbor again. That was a waste
Don't tell me what to do.
God bless you. That was wonderful.
Adios, Adi Coop. go ahead, Savannah, my man. Brother. What's up? What's going on?
Hello, team. How are you? Godfrey and Tisha. It's good to see you again. These days, I love your spaces. Your spaces are great. So the points that the people they bring up, some of the points, they have some mistakes in their analysis, and I want to correct it, especially about Iran. But let us start from Trump. Those Russian stuff is rubbish. It's just propaganda. All of you know it. And those false flags in Europe that you brought it up, it's false flags, all of them. But there are two things which are really important. Trump was asked before coming to Middle East that what if Israel breaks the ceasefire again? He said that it's not going to happen, but it will happen definitely. First of all, after releasing the hostages. And second thing, he was asked about Taliban Pakistan. And he said that they can wait till I come back. But he knows very well that the only group that in this Middle East can put the whole Middle East in the fire is Taliban. And that's very important. You know, Afghanistan doesn't have any infrastructure, anything. And it's impossible for somebody to go and conquer Afghanistan, the whole Afghanistan. It's impossible because of the geography of the Afghanistan. But right now, you can look at the conflict. Why? Because we are 1 day ahead. You know, we're 1 day ahead. Right now, it's 4 o'clock in the morning here. But you are 1 day behind us. And as soon as the market collapsed over there, what happened? The conflict started. Pakistani came and terrorized, and Taliban did a great game. And he put a table over there, attacked so many posts and all this stuff, border posts and all this stuff. And after that, they said that, okay, it's done. And now they're negotiating. And remember that Taliban has been recognized by Russia. And Russia is the only country that recognized de jure Taliban. And that's a very important point of view. And look at the railroad from China to Iran and Russia as well. So Taliban, in this case, comes into place. So that's why I was saying that Bagram is a great mistake that I'm waiting for United States to do it. The people, they're talking about Mossad and all this stuff. No. Mossad on that region, east side, has conflict of interest with CIA. You know, Mossad has cooperation with everybody, but surprisingly, they have conflict of interest with CIA. And that's very important to keep in mind. So remember that this Taliban stuff is very, very important in near future, and you will see it, what will happen.
What do you think it's
Another
about?
point.
Is it about Bagram Air Base, or what do you think it's about?
No. It's about China and United States. It's a bigger picture. It's about China and United States. Bagram has nothing to do. United States knows, you know, the people, they think that United States are stupid. No, they're not stupid. Because they mix the stuff, you know. IDF Pentagon is different from Mossad CIA. Because Mossad CIA is done through committees. But IDF Pentagon is not done through committees. So that's very important that you differentiate this stuff to not make a mistake in your analysis, you know? And it is really complex. Mossad directly cannot come to CIA because of the CIA nature. But IDF can directly come to Pentagon or the other way around, you know? So one part is military, the other part is intelligent, and it is absolutely separate and different. So what is happening right now is in response to tariffs, you know, and the people, they don't realize it, that 1 day ahead, suddenly this happens. So definitely it has something to do with CIA, which is doing right now, which is de-escalating this side, but they cannot succeed. You know why? Because Taliban, I myself was surprised They nailed the coffin very well. Attacked the border, taking so many posts, and after that exploding all of them. And they don't care about the missiles which is coming to Kabul or the Kunar and the other states because they don't have infrastructure, But for Pakistan, it's dangerous to have conflict with these people over there. You have to know the complexity. And for Pakistan, it's impossible to bring ground troops to Afghanistan. It's really impossible for anyone. Even United States couldn't do it alone. So many people, they helped them to go over there. And look at Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia immediately took action and said that, hey, calm down. And Iran was saying that, okay, you have to calm down because both countries, they know the situation very well. So you have to see the Afghanistan stuff and Taliban stuff in bigger picture. So if something happened over there, consider it that this group, surprisingly, can put whole region from Iran till Israel in the fire. And it's surprisingly, they have this potentiality. That's the nature of this group. And that's why it is a warning to China. But it doesn't work. Anyway, it doesn't work really. So far it hasn't worked and it doesn't work. On the other side, the people, they don't know that. I received a report that the Chinese drone so far has done 5,000 hours investigating flight over Saudi Arabia. That's a really threat for United States. That's a really threat for United States. It means that Chinese are over there. And when Chinese are over there, you look at it economically and strategically. So that's the region from the other side. But on the other side, I want to bring you to Venezuela. There is a place called Guyana, as you know, and there is one place over there, Essequibo. It's not a matter of the oil, it's a matter of the gas. The oil era has gone. It's the matter of the gas right now and the gold.
That's a live space.
And this conflict goes back to 1800. And you know that this country, this place was under the colony of UK, not United States. So it has a long history. And the Nobel Prize that they gave to this lady, I made a post on that. It's the same as Aung San Suu Kyi. And we had two ladies in Iran that they won this Nobel Prize. And I made a post on that and said it's the same. And it became the same, because this lady is connected to George Bush. Junior. And from there, you can find it and go back and look at Aung San Suu Kyi, then you can see it. And this propaganda, that's why I told in your space, Keith, that Trump's chance for Nobel Prize is very slim. And that propaganda was to bringing this lady up. Women freedom. Which country has happened? In Iran. We had a riot like this. With regard to Iran, basically that monarch is a clone. And that's the mistake that the people, especially those who are out of Iran, they don't know. No, it was a coup, but they were not planning to bring this clone to Iran. They were planning to bring so many other coalitions, and there are some people called Mecca. They were a terrorist group. They were in Iraq, helping Iraq against Iran at the time of the war, and they were selling oil, Iraqi oil during Iraq and Iran war. And from there, they were connected to a guy who was a Zionist Jew. He's in jail. I forgot his name, but they have really power, and the network is bigger than this monarch. Israelis, they know very well that this monarch has nobody in Iran, and even outside Iran. So keep aside this monarch and go for a triangle. There are so many oppositions, and the basic of that pyramid is Mecca and Zionists. So that monarch has zero chance. With regard to JPCOA, JPCOA is on the basis of one Security Council resolution, Resolution 2231, and it's going to end 18th of October. So JPCOA is dead. And yesterday, our foreign minister said it clearly that we have no talk with Troika. That means that three European country. So we're not talking about JPCOA. They invited our president to Sharm el-Sheikh, rejected. They invited our foreign minister, rejected. And of course, we know that it is Trump propaganda. And after that, Sisi, the Egyptian president, invited, again rejected. It is a sign that a conflict is coming and everybody knows it. So it's very important to know all this stuff. And with regard to the United States, I want to introduce you a book. You know, the people of United States, they don't know that. The amount of the guns, which is in United States, in the hand of the people, is more than any army that has arms. But there is another thing which they are afraid of it, and Godfrey brought it up very well. They are really afraid of your law obedience and not voting. And there is a book, Gandhi and Churchill. I will put it in paper, and I would recommend you to read it. If you read that book, you know what they are exactly afraid of. So what we are right now seeing, so it's between Iran and Israel. But if you go to the bigger picture, so do not make this mistake. These two things are separate. These two things are absolutely separate. Of course, Israel and Iran are a part of that, but they are separate at the same time as well. There is another danger which is coming next. Let's say that Chinese, they win this war, but this time we have to have another unity to take Chinese out of the game. So that's another danger that the people, they are not looking at it. So we are empowering the dragon right now. And what will happen if dragon does it the same that United States and the West can't, they are doing it. So the people should keep in mind all this stuff, because I myself, I'm a people person. I don't care about any government from West to East. I would say that whatever serves humanity is correct. So basically, the conflict is coming. But anytime, because we don't have the correct data, anytime, everything might go to mutual neutralization as well, which I don't see it because economic point of view, because of a strategic point of view, because it's the war of resources, energies, and corridors. And nobody so far has taken a step behind. And everybody right now are silent and observing. And Trump really is not a crazy guy. He is great in what he's saying. Of course, it's look idiot, but it has a background. Thank you for the mic, Keith, and I'm gonna leave the floor back.
Thank you, sir. Sir Eskenar, did you want to chime in, sir? Can you hear me? Is there anybody in there? Keith, are you there?
Yes, buddy.
Obviously, he's away from his fucking device right now. Move on, bitch.
Sir Eskenar?
Come on, man. I don't know how to run a space.
I think he's having trouble with his mic. Let's go with Jay.
Yeah, go ahead with Jay. Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Great discussion so far. Thank you for hosting the space, Godfrey, and handing me the mic. So I wanted to, I guess, double down on some of the issues that ID Coop, had risen about the overall geopolitical situation, and also talk about some of what could be coming to help ensure that agenda moves forward. So like he pointed out, all the, signs point right now to escalation between America, and Russia with, between Europe and Russia, with us kind of backing the European side. And, it looks like we are going to be in multiple wars if the establishment gets their way. So, in order for that to happen, they do understand that what they're about to do is extremely unpopular, like a few other speakers have also pointed out. So all these government contracts that have been going out to Palantir are a sign of what they're going to do to make sure that we're not able to push back. So for those who don't know, Palantir is creating a centralized database of all of our information that will be able to, pull up in real time, for example, what percentage of people, at a protest, might believe that, Zionists control our government. And, that could help them dictate and decide in real time how to deal with protesters. And, in the current situation, we have no knowledge of how our digital footprint is being accessed and weaponized against us. And they're making it easier and easier. They're expanding that ability to other government agencies. It's not like it's just the FBI or certain police forces that have access to it now. They're giving it to ICE, to be able to surveil everybody all at the same time. So, what we're seeing is a gigantic centralization of power, specifically over our digital footprint, because they want to be able to track, who's spreading the truth online and, use that information to their advantage. So, what I'd encourage people to do is to, number one, think about the fact that they are scared of civil disobedience, in the case of that happening. And, Godfrey, I heard you advocating earlier, for people to check out the political system, and I agree to an extent, but I did want to add a little caveat to that. Right now, our political system is dominated by the Republican and Democratic parties, which are completely decentralized. I do think I would encourage people to look into other third parties that are not completely bought and sold off, and I would encourage people to, research how the centralization of power in executive committees, like we see in the Democrat and Republican Party, is affecting this process because, party bylaws don't need to be written in a way where all the power over the candidates, like for each party is, given to, executive committees and wealthy boards. So we could, restructure our political parties so they're not, centrally controlled. So, but outside of that, the title of this space is martial law. The reason why they consider martial law, something they may need to do is because they don't want people to get out in the streets and protest, what could be coming to make their voices heard, especially if it's a nonviolent protest, because then they don't have the excuse to crack down and, and use all the military essentially against us. And, Trump has even tweeted pretty recently, essentially saying that the Department of War is going to be coming to Chicago. And when you think about it, he's essentially threatening to use the military, the U.S. military, against American citizens. So he's telling you, what's coming, and he's telling you that, that precedent, once it's set, even if it's for what people consider to be a good cause originally, it can be weaponized, for other causes.
Well said, 100%.
Yeah, so I'd encourage everyone to, think about that and then recognize that the only way martial law can be implemented realistically is if all the local police forces are going along with it, because even though on paper the military is supposed to be in charge of everything, they do usually need to coordinate with local sheriffs to be able to do that. So what I would encourage everyone to do is to start researching more about your local politics, in particular, who your local sheriffs are, and then, start to organize locally and, So real quick, then I'll pass it to the next speaker. I know you guys have plenty of requests. I would ask you to take a look at a decentralized third party, which is the fastest growing third party in the nation, called the We the People Party. And long story short, we've taken all that executive authority I mentioned before that's right now concentrated in executive committees and wealthy boards, and we're giving it to the members of the party. So right now, if someone wants to run for their local sheriff, they essentially have to have the blessing of your state DNC or your state RNC, depending on who controls your state. And what we're doing is we're allowing the people in that community to make that decision by themselves without any outside interference. So if you can get together with your local community and decide on the values that you want your sheriff to promote and your sheriff to advocate for, then you can do that in the WTP party. That's the We the People Party, without any outside interference. The only thing that we require is that you agree on being anti-war. You take an anti-corruption pledge that, mandates you publish every single budget you have access to in real time so that people can see how their money is being wasted. And you have to agree to decentralization, because what works in California may not work in Texas. So take a look at it and, recognize there are solutions to all these problems. And, if we all agree that war with Venezuela is bad and we decide, we want to do a nonviolent protest against that, and it really picks up steam, it'll make it extremely hard for the establishment, to move forward with it. So great space, appreciate the mic, and yeah, I'll drop down and let other people speak now.
Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jay. Sorry, Tisha, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, I just wanted to say thank you. It's so well said, and we do need to, know our local government, as well as our sheriffs, and, make our voices heard locally. I would agree with that. Thank you so much. Well said.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. And yeah, follow Jay. He's doing a wonderful thing with the We the People Party. And I agree. So when I say opt out, I don't mean not voting entirely, just not voting for the Democrat Republican Party, who are completely compromised by the CIA military industrial complex in Israel. But parties like that, or what Michael Rechtenwald is doing with the anti-Zionist party, that's awesome. That I would vote for. That kind of stuff is amazing. So kudos on you. And yeah, I agree. Participating like that on our own terms is amazing. What you're doing, brother, that is awesome. Everybody follow Jay, please. And Jay, I just want to, I put this in the pill. So 7 C's, who everybody should be following, talks about this article from magazine ICE is planning to do. So ICE is starting out as the immigration arm, right? They're arresting illegal immigrants, but they're soon going to move to be the paramilitary police force, in my opinion, who arrests patriots, dissenters from both the right and the left, who are questioning Trump and who are questioning World War III and other things and asking too many questions about Epstein. I do think that will be an offense coming up soon, where it will be considered blood libel if you are asking too many questions about Epstein, if they get what they want and we do not stand our ground, because they are trying to sweep this Epstein under the rug thing in a way that's scary. But he says, so this is an article from Wired. The title is ICE is planning to build a 24/7 social media surveillance team to target people for deportation. So I'm going to read 7 C's post verbatim. Notice that they don't explicitly include the term immigrants anywhere in this statement. And how exactly without also surveilling the entire populace. So they're using immigration as a smokescreen to surveil the entire American populace. Obviously, we know they're not looking at illegal immigrants. They're looking for dissenters. They're looking for people who question Trump too much, people who question the going to World War III, people who are asking too many questions about Epstein and Charlie Kirk and other things. So sorry, I'm just going to continue. So he said, and how exactly do you identify immigrants without also surveilling the entire populace? They're not getting rid of H-1Bs. The state is the number one perpetrator of mass migration. Absolutely, I agree with him. ICE is getting taxpayers off the hook for Palantir and Israeli tech subscriptions to run this software. So that post is in the nest. And if you guys don't mind, just because Jay was talking about it and I think it's super topical, I want to play the clip from Stephen Miller, where he talks about using plenary power. And I don't know if you guys saw this clip, but it's really eerie because, and for those of you that don't know, plenary power is like absolute executive power with no checks or balances or any kind of constitutional checks. Is essentially pure presidential power. That could only happen in a state of martial law and other things. So I'm going to play this clip for you guys. And the eerie thing about this clip is if you watch it, I'll put it in a nest. The minute after, the second after Stephen Miller says plenary power, he freezes. Somebody was yelling in his earpiece for him to shut up because he was giving the game away. And this is what they're trying to do. They're going to try to declare martial law through the Insurrection Act and exert plenary power. So hold on one sec.
Guys, it's a great clip. Right. You got to watch it.
Okay, so here it is.
Illegal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority. Stephen? Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me?
Stephen, I apologize. It seems like we're having a technical reporting. Legal insurrection.
So, you can clearly see that he was completely speaking out of turn. He wasn't supposed to say that. And he completely got caught off guard. And it got a little awkward because the reporter from CNN's like, Steven, you there, man? You there? So I'm going to put that clip in the pill and in the nest as well. But that is what they want to do. And I think they're using Chicago, like we were talking about earlier, the city of Chicago, to kick off the insurrection, to stoke out some of these gang members. You already had a violent, insane lady in Chicago who was stalking ICE agents and opened fire. And, I don't think there's a conspiracy or that anybody from the CIA put her up to it or anything, but there are just violent types in Chicago that will do that shit. And they know that. And that's what worries me about this whole Chicago thing, that they're using it as a launching off point. So thank you, guys. Let's get through some of these other hands.
Sir Escanor, or unless, Jay, you wanted to respond?
Yeah, really quick. I forgot something I wanted to mention before. I'd encourage everyone to look into the difference between decentralized digital ID and centralized digital ID. What they're proposing, Starmer is proposing, and what Donald Trump is building through Palantir is a centralized database of our information. The truth is, we do actually there are a lot of things we can do with the digital ID. So if there was a way where it wasn't able to be weaponized against us, I think it's something we should consider. And I do think if you look at what they've done in Estonia, they do have a more decentralized system over there. So while it's not perfect, it maintains a lot of the advantages that you can get, through using the internet while protecting your privacy. And if anyone, even police, access your digital information, you receive a notification. So it puts a lot more transparency into the whole system. And it's a lot harder to weaponize if we actually have a decentralized digital ID. So in order to push back against what's coming with Palantir, I'd encourage everyone to study that. A bill of digital rights, so we can prevent our digital footprint from being weaponized against us in ways that we don't approve. So appreciate the mic, and don't forget there are solutions to all these problems. So this pill is not about being black. This space is not about black pilling. It's about making you aware of the problem, and so we can discuss ways to fight back. And there are solutions to all the problems we face. So great space, and keep it going.
Thank you, Jay. That was awesome. Did you post the what you were speaking of?
Yeah, so
No, I'm sorry. I'm going to do that. Oh, sorry, Jay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were speaking to me. Yeah, I did post down the Purple Pill a little bit more about decentralized ID. And if you guys are interested in learning more about the We the People Party, me and the national chair host spaces every week about it. You'll see this week's space pinned at the top of my profile. Please, hit the notification button and attend at 10 p.m. this Wednesday and every Wednesday. So, yeah, have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Godfrey, did you want to add anything? Because we're going to go to Sir Escanor next.
Oh, no, you're good. I thought you were talking about me in that video from Stephen Miller. I'm putting that in the Nest and in the pill right now, so I'll do that while Escanor.
Oh, that's a must watch too, guys. It really is. The awkwardness of Stephen Miller is just, it's entertaining, but frightening in the same breath. Sir Escanor?
Yeah, hey. So, yeah, look, I've been hearing a lot of stuff, and I'm just going to try to explain a little bit of what I think is a little bit of a higher level of control that kind of maps down into most of what's been spoken about today, right? And I'm going to use technocracy, transhumanism, and censorship as a vehicle to get there. And Israel is going to be the subject. So, no matter what it is, whether it's governments, politics, celebrities, business, big pharma, all of these people are part of cults that are governed by mystery school religions, which means transhumanism is a religion and technocracy is the throne. That's what's happening across the world. Doesn't matter if they're in conflict, if they're making deals together, irrelevant of the situation. The end game is the fucking same, irrelevant of the cause. Now, censorship, most people know that censorship is used to obviously silence dissent. That's like the obvious usage of this tool, but there's a contrary edge to this sword, right? Censorship can be used to censor something that is false to give it credence. Pew is a good example of that. How they censored it, they suspended us, they made it look like we were the rising. But in fact, they were just giving us credence, making it look like, yes, this is the vehicle of the good guys are using. But the whole time has been one of the octopus's tentacles controlling and manipulating us. So Israel is the big question. Something that most people don't consider when they think about this is that Israel requires the world to turn on it. Israel requires the world to fucking turn on it as a stepping stone to their Messiah. They want you to hate them. They are allowing it to happen. They are actually pushing it along. And they're studying it at the same time. They're studying rebellion in real time and using it for their own prophetic means. They're studying what triggers us, what red pilled us, what got us involved in a movement, what pulled us away. And the whole time we think we're building the battalion against our controllers, they're allowing it to happen, studying it, and they want us to fucking take them down at the end. Because from any prophetic angle, the Antichrist controlled beast system rises from the ashes of the harlot, the old system. They need the current controlling parasites to fall for the new system that we build through our own free will, our new smart prison that we think we liberated ourselves into. That's the end game. That's the Aquarian New Age. That's all of these, all of these ancient religions.
All these brown people telling us
point
what an
to this point
American
in time, and the Phoenix Antichrist beast system that is rising is doing so through all of the conflicts around the world at the same time. So, what's the solution to this? It's hard to say because the only reason I watch news or I'm on social media is I use it as a tool to wake people up. If it goes up to myself, I turn off the television, turn off social media, and never watch any of this shit again. This whole thing is controlled. Everything that we are watching on a daily basis is MK Ultraing us on a collective level. They're pulling us through a hope-despair cycle. Hope, despair. It doesn't matter if you're right, left, commie, fucking, LGBTQ, straight, gay, black, white. It doesn't fucking matter. You're going through the same cycle that deteriorates your brain's mechanism to defend itself against mind control. And that's what the fuck is going on to all of us at the same fucking time while we're all pointing fingers at each other and they're studying it at the same fucking time. So I guess want everybody to understand the scope of what the fuck is going on. Because until people understand that, you could talk about bullshit. Yeah, grassroots, go vote. No, shut the fuck up. You have no idea what the fuck you're saying. You have no clue what you're saying. Everything is bullshit. So, yeah. I'll end there.
What do you think about like unity? Like, getting the larger percentage to understand that it's not left versus right, it's us versus them. Would that make a difference?
The problem, and I think I said earlier, is that of the fucking 1% of people that are awake, which is probably less than that, 99% of them are pussies. So what do we do with that? What do we do with fucking one person every fucking scattered here and there that has balls, that has a family, that has a life to live and enjoy himself or herself as well? Do you fucking deplete yourself for these fucking lemmings that are going to drag you to fucking hell with them? Like, that's a decision everybody has to make. And you got to look yourself in the fucking mirror and be, happy with your decision. I can make the decision for you, but, you can't spend your life fighting these global enemies at the expense of your own happiness and family, because then you lose one way or another. So you have to balance everything. And that's key. You can't be a fucking, rage warrior all the time, and then your life sucks balls, and you fucking, what kind of life is that? What kind of win is that? There's no win in that. If you take your happiness away, you lost already. So, yeah.
Amen. Well said. Thank you so much. That was really good. Godfrey, did you want to add anything? Because we're going to go to Mishka next.
I agree with what Eskimo was saying to a certain extent. I do think we need to get active, though, and I think that maybe I myself am a little too active sometimes. It's getting the best of me, but I get what he's saying. I totally get what he's saying, and you got to find your own happiness. It makes total sense, and that's probably a message from God to me, because I've been really stressed out lately about everything. And thank you, Escanor. We'll keep moving through the hands, but thank you, buddy.
Mishka?
Wait, Blue's back up. Yeah,
Blue.
I told Blue I'd go to her.
Not bad for a black pillar.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not bad for a black pillar.
That's good, Escanor.
Blue, how are you, sweetheart?
Good. How are y'all? Thanks for having me up. I wanted to point out something that I've been noticing with what's been going on. And I've started really taking a notice with that school shooting that happened at the Catholic school. And the day after, Melania came out with a speech, and she was talking about pre-crime. We have to do something about pre-crime. And many people didn't catch it, but they said they were going to deploy a Gideon program the next week. And so the next few incidents that happened, including Charlie Kirk's thing was very interesting, because if you were watching from afar and not getting emotionally involved, you could absolutely see that mass formation happened during that. And they got many people to turn on others. They got many people to start turning people in and putting people on list because of, even if they didn't really say anything like, oh, I'm glad he's dead, it was just anything negative about Charlie Kirk. They went after people. And so that was I believe it was mass formation, the same way that they did with COVID, to get people to start looking. And I think all of these individual events combined, I think that they're using, just like Escobar was saying about the taking the data. They are certainly taking the data and scraping data, especially in certain cities. They're probably looking at Chicago right now, because that's where we have troops deployed, and these other cities. And they're able to look at these specific examples. Even just going through Google Analytics, they can tell what are the people thinking inside these cities. And they're going to use this to their advantage. I do believe totalitarianism is coming. I think that, Trump is the one that has been chosen to try to or selected. He, certainly created an image that appealed to so many people, and now we're seeing that image change right here in real time. We're actually watching him change and go to a different side that we weren't expecting. And some people say it's a Trojan horse, but we've seen Palantir, we've seen all of these things. He is here to bring on. What we're seeing right now that most people should be very concerned about is 1A and 2A going away. And 1A, that was the example that I gave with the Charlie Kirk thing. You can't say anything, I didn't mourn Charlie Kirk. Do I deserve to be fired? Because I didn't even listen to him. I didn't really care. I just didn't. And I looked at the event, but I didn't really study it or pay attention to it because it's just not, I just didn't know who he was or just didn't really pay attention prior to that event. But does that mean that I cannot speak out about this? And this is what I've seen happen: is many people turning on one another, and it's like a mass. If you look at mass formation as a way of like hypnotizing the large population of people, that's what we see happening in these last few cases, and it's rapidly advancing to the point where we've already got people that are willing to turn on people, tattletale on people, turn people in, put people on lists, and the government's collecting their own list as we go along as well. And this is how they're going to take the 2A. We've talked about this, many times. We hear the language that they're looking at mentally ill people. Mentally ill people shouldn't have guns. They're going to go after the veterans. We've seen several incidences with veterans. Last year, we had the Vegas Tesla cars bombing, and then we saw the other the guy down in New Orleans, and those are veterans. So we've seen some false flags, I believe they were. Or even they were just soldiers trying to get their stories out. But we've seen some things. And so I think right now we really need to be paying attention domestically what's happening, because we have a lot of distractions across the world. But what's going on here is very, very important, because we're losing our rights. We're losing our rights to speak out about certain things. Most of the people that I know that have somewhat, we can't get any reach on X right now. Maybe I said the wrong word. Maybe I said the wrong thing. So I can't get my stuff out to other people. And so we need to come together, and we need to be able to recognize these mass formation types of things, because I see so many people just grouping into these things, because when you're with a group and the group sounds like, they're saying the right thing, you want to stick with them. And I'm telling everybody to keep your critical thinking and to examine things. And you have to put everybody is looking for emotional side to things. And this is what's happening. It's like Charlie Kirk's thing was a very emotional event. And they can hone in on that, because you're not getting emotion from your little AI phone calls to people when you reach a robot. You don't have emotions with robots. And so when we do have these events that are so high emotionally strung, then you get wrapped up into it. And that's why many people, they couldn't figure out a way to get out of it. And there were many people that I saw saying, I don't know why I'm so upset. And it's because you got into it. You got into that emotional event that they created so that you would be emotionally attached. And now you're willing to do anything for them, including just looking through people's posts to see if, he said that, good, he's dead, and you're willing to turn in people for this. This is how totalitarian leaders are created. This is what's needed for totalitarianism. And we have a technocratic state that wants this more so than the leader that they've picked, which is Donald Trump. And he's just following along what all of these billionaires are going to be, greatly invested in. And just like I think it was Sir Eskin I was talking about transhumanism and other things. Once you get to that stage, then it's too late. So we need to really make sure if you see something, we have to ensure that we're keeping our rights, and we have to keep demanding that. Listen, this is a free speech thing. I've tried to come back and say something to people like they absolutely will argue and fuss with me and say no, they should not be talking that way. Well, that might be how you talk to your kids, but we're talking about citizens in supposedly in a free country. And this is what we have. We have rights. We have Bill of Rights, and we have to look at 1, 2, 3, 4. We have to go down the list, and we have to preserve these at all costs. No matter if they send in the federal or the nationalized police, and the nationalized police force was what Hillary Clinton was going to do. Trump is just enacting what they've already had planned. This has been in the works for a long time, is to put in some kind of a national police force in our cities, and they let them get run down enough so that this is what they're going to do. And part of that is going to be I do believe they're going to be taking the guns away from people.
Good luck,
and so
man.
we have to look at these things, and we have to make sure you're standing up for our rights and the best that we can, because it's almost a done deal when they're able to scrape all of our data and plug us into little groups, and they continuously do this every single day until they have enough data to go, oh, that group over there, they speak out way too much. We need to make sure that they don't get any traction, anything else. And that's where we're at now. This is where we're at now. And so what's coming next is going to be making sure that however that they do it, they're going to, look through somebody's medical records, because the digitized medical records are going to be on your digital ID. So you have, and all of these things are to protect us from illegal aliens, or illegal immigrants from using our stuff. So they're using this whole, we're getting rid of immigrants. They can't vote, so you need a digital ID. We don't want them to use healthcare system, so we got to have your records on digital ID so that they can't sneak in and use the healthcare system here and get it for free. And all of these things, they're all talking points to get us to the end point of Agenda 2030. This is what we're going. This is what they're still going towards, and I can see it, and I know a lot of other people can see it too, but.
Isn't it a clever plan, Blue? Like it's really kind of a master plan.
It really is. I mean, I've actually thought of, wow, this is pretty genius, because this is exactly what they're doing right now, and they don't care. Like at the expense of everybody, our military, not getting paid, the expense of all of these things, and using our military as political pawns the last few weeks. And just to see the lengths that they're going to secure this system is really just amazing to me. And yeah, it's a genius plan, and it's working.
So, what I just took from what Blue said, we gotta take our emotions out of this, guys, and look at things critically. Godfrey?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Blue. So many good points there. I wanted to bring up, I don't know if you saw this, Blue, but it was, I saw Maine Wonk posted about it last night, and I saw Gun Owners of America posted. This post has 3.9 million views. Breaking, AG Pam Bondi has convinced a federal judge to order at 2A fund to turn over a list of its members. So Pam Bondi is doing the same thing that Merrick Garland was doing by trying to initiate gun registries. And I didn't see anything in the regular media about this. I only saw this on X. Guys, I can't say this enough. The FBI is still the secret police of the New World Order. They're still targeting patriots. You're just not hearing about it. And as of now, I think they're brazen enough to try and to just tell people that they're coming to take your guns. I mean, how crazy is this? So let me read this paragraph. Within 21 days of issuance of this judgment, These plaintiffs identified in paragraph 20A shall provide to defendants a verified list of their members as of November 6, 2020. So I'm going to put this document in the pill. This is very, very scary stuff. And I just want to mention a couple other things that have happened. So you have Trump. I played the clip of Stephen Miller talking about plenary power. We have Trump talking about the Insurrection Act. We have fools in the Q community saying, do it, Q. The military is the only way, basically rooting for their own insurrection, rooting for their own police state. Absolutely unbelievable. And here's the scariest thing about the Insurrection Act. As if the act itself isn't scary in that idea, there's no pretext to do it. There aren't Antifa members killing cops. There's no mass riots. There are crime in cities, but it's not like it was in the Summer of Love. So you have the Trump administration who covered up Epstein, who's not investigating COVID, not investigating election fraud, not investigating January 6th, who has no credibility with justice whatsoever. And he's now sending the National Guard out. And you even had the governor of Oklahoma today refuse to send National Guard troops, which is amazing. Like, this is what it takes, because people are realizing there's something up here. This is not right. There are Republicans standing up against this because they know it's not right. Nobody wants the Insurrection Act, and they're trying to stoke it up. And Stephen Miller saying we're going to issue plenary power. But the most disturbing thing that I came across was, and I want to, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to be very quick. I know we got hands. I'm going to go to Sam, who's been waiting forever down there. Thank you. They were planning, I think they still are, sending the 82nd Airborne Unit to Portland. Okay, this is not the National Guard. This is an elite. I believe they're special forces. I don't know the direct distinction, but they're an elite military unit in the Army. Based on my understanding, they're some of the first troops to go on the ground in a war overseas. But I don't know much about it. I don't want to speak to a matter that I don't have any authority over. But the fact of the matter is, so here's what I think happened. So apparently this guy, Anthony Salisbury, who is an aide to Stephen Miller, somebody took a photograph of him sending text messages about the 82nd going to Portland. But what I think happened, this is my own personal opinion, is that Anthony Salisbury was leaking this information because he wasn't comfortable with it. That's my own opinion. I don't want to speak for him. Please don't take that as anything other than my opinion. But so this is an article from the Daily Mail, or the Guardian in the UK. White House official inadvertently reveals plans to send elite Army unit to Portland. A senior White House official accidentally leaked details of plans to send an elite Army unit to Portland in the latest intelligence leak by the Trump administration. Anthony Salisbury, a top deputy to Stephen Miller, the influential White House policy advisor, was observed using Signal in a public place to discuss a plan to deploy the Army's 82nd Airborne Division to Portland, the Democrat-run Oregon city, which Donald Trump has repeatedly castigated as being war-ravaged. So the Minnesota Star Tribune obtained images of Salisbury's Signal messages, which it said were sent while the official was in clear view of others. In the messages sent last week, Salisbury chatted with Patrick Weaver, a senior advisor to the U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and other high-ranking officials. Weaver told wrote that Hegseth wanted Trump to expressly tell him to send troops to Portland. Quote, between you and I think Pete wants the top cover from the boss if anything goes sideways with the troops there, Weaver said. He wrote that Hegseth would prefer to send in the National Guard due to potential backlash over using the Army. Quote, 82nd is like our top tier quick reaction force for abroad, so it will cause a lot of headlines, he added. Probably why he wants POTUS to tell him to do it. So there you have it. I'm going to put that article in the pill. That is very scary stuff. And, you know, just what we've seen with ICE, the building up of these prisons. Gitmo really has expanded 3 times, but it's clearly not for Satanists or people in Washington, D.C. And it's clearly not for illegal immigrants. They're not going to send illegal immigrants to Gitmo. They're going to send domestic terrorists to Gitmo for interrogation, just like they did with Muslim terrorists in Iraq. They're building alligator Alcatraz. There was the bill called the Alcatraz Act that was passed, talking about building new FEMA camp type places, or containment areas is the polite way of saying it, for, quote, illegal immigrants. But at least I'm pretty sure that it's not for illegal immigrants. And then you have the building of those prisons in El Salvador, where Eric Prince is trying to partition them so they're U.S. territories in El Salvador. So a lot of weird things going on. But I want to go to Sam, who has his hand up for a long time. Thank you.
I want to thank Godfrey, Keith, and Tish for making this space happen. I'm a very big admirer of you guys. And coming behind the other people from the other countries and stuff is like, I'm...
And you know what? They do an investigation. Like back in the day, they'd do an investigation, and then the news would be all over it. People would get answers. Now something happens. Like, come on, our technology, the people that we have around, we can figure shit out really fucking fast. Like, how about the black box that's indestructible that was on one of the flights that hit the World Trade Center? They found one, but still we don't have any evidence of what was on that recording. But they couldn't find the other one. These boxes can withstand anything. But yeah, no evidence. Same with this emissions plant. We don't know why it exploded, but yet if there was a Democrat's house that blew up, and he was a very popular person that had a lot of votes and was influenced by the public, we would get the absolute correct story on what happened, and then we'd get it now. But so we don't get any of that shit anymore. So does anybody feel like this is all being done, put into place?
Yes. Dude,
yeah.
You're I appreciate, that's such a good point. So you know, I know I've told you, Comply, and anybody else who knows me, Tracy, I'm a truck driver, right? So I'm on the front lines of everything going on. I'm super thankful for that, but also it's something that I'll say this. I'm trying to think how to put this tactfully and like succinctly. So not last year, but about 2-3 years ago, there was this thing that went on in Ohio. And I had a buddy reach out to me, and he said that his grandma lived there. And he had a lot of questions. And I'll say this to summarize all of the things we talked about. There was an economic war going on there for 5 years before the train attack. I don't mean to put it like that, but that's what it was. It was a train attack. That's what it was. Something happened. It's very strange. There's a lot of outside things that came into play. The idea of, all right, I'll tell you that I'm not trying to get heated, but I am this is bullshit. The fact that you can get you're working for a company and you've been somewhere for a bunch of years, how much is it worth for someone to pay you to run your load over a railroad track and get it hung up on a lowboy trailer, an RGN, a removable gooseneck trailer? How much is it worth for you to ruin your career and do that? Well, I'll tell you how much it's worth. It's worth about $5 million. $5 million is but a small sum if you're going to take over a whole town with chemicals that destroys the town, ruins the price of real estate, allows you to make your gains. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into that. I don't really have it succinctly made out where I can like make my point, but I'll tell you this: truck drivers talk. We talk on the CB. We talk in groups. We know what the hell's up. We know what's going on. We do. We're very connected. You know, whether we're getting loaded on the yard and we're hanging out while 2 different forklifts are putting stuff on our trailers and just hanging out and chit-chatting. We're very connected. We know what's going on. All right? There's
Hey,
about
Kairos.
4 million of us.
Can you hear me, Kairos? Can anybody hear me?
I can. You sound good.
Okay, good. So let me just throw this out here too. I know we were talking about the trains and everything, but does anybody know what happened in the last couple of days? What just came out to the public, and they announced it? Joe Biden has cancer. To me, what I feel, I don't think Joe Biden's still alive. I think it's just they got so many different people propping him up, doing whatever. But all this shit is coming down the tubes, and he's being exposed. And well, this is a good way to, once you have cancer, it's not curable, because if it was, we wouldn't be losing so many people. So if he miraculously comes out of this and he becomes cancer free, not that it couldn't happen, but this is just another storyline for them to push out there that, this guy passed away. Our president passed away. And then it's all everybody's going to kind of move towards that narrative and feel bad while they shove something else down our throats with the curtain closed. Like I said, I don't believe this guy's still alive, but it's just really funny. Like, this guy couldn't walk. I mean, like Travis says all the time, the guy shits his pants nonstop. He doesn't even realize he's doing it, and his wife's got to cover up for him. But yet now he's got cancer. Come on. I'm not buying the bullshit. This is just another cover up, and they're gonna kill off his character, or whatever the hell he is, because I don't think he's alive. I don't think Hillary Clinton's alive either, to be honest with you. So it's just something else. So yeah, with the train and everything that's going on, like, they're always doing something but they don't talk about it. That's what's so frustrating. Like, we don't get answers to anything. And they're just so good at moving that pendulum stick.
Well, dude, what they do, they send us all down all of these rabbit holes to basically get us looking in all these other directions. Man, I got this phlegm in my throat. I'm sorry. Basically, what it's doing, they send you down all these other rabbit trails. So you're looking at this, you're looking at that, looking at bang, 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 look at all these other places. But the whole truth of it all, no matter how you look at it, dude, in Ohio, bro, do you know who owned the refinery that put the liquid into those tanker trains, them train tankers? Bro, it was a Jewish company. What is the odds? What are the odds? Everything is all from these dual citizens. I was talking in space earlier tonight. I was like, yeah, dude. Basically, I went to church today. I talked to my deacon about some of the stuff that's going on. And, we're on the same page. I don't have to go into that. But then I met with a guy across the street, a friend of mine. And we talked for about 3 hours. I said, what we need to do is we need to have a Euro ethno state. That's what we need to have. The only dual citizens we have in the United States are people that are like English American, Irish American. These people understand and respect the freedom that we have. They understand and fully respect the Second Amendment. They wish they had it there, and we have to use unity even across multinational divide because we have to understand what we're up against, which is the Jew. And they have the multinational divide almost conquered. But we have some comeback. We can come back. So Briars, I'm curious your point. Seems like you kind of agree. I'm curious your follow-up on that. So jump in here.
Yeah, so I was gonna respond to what was posted at the top, which is why do people keep lining up for this jab? And it's really hard to get somebody who has been deceived to admit that they have been deceived, and it's a battle that I am fighting myself personally. My goal is to get the Judeo-Christian churches out of bed with the whore of Babylon, which is Jerusalem.
Yes.
And
yes.
Every Sunday I go to a new church and I introduce myself to the pastor and I try to set up an appointment with him either that day or later that week. And I sit down with him and I go through the Bible and I show him all of the evidences that I have found, which is all that I can remember and that he'll listen to. Yeah.
Hey, Byers. Hey, I have a bunch of information that will help you with your point. I'm going through order of the confirmation of Christian Catholics right now, and I handed over this information to my teacher. My teacher has completely changed his stance, and it's phenomenal. And let's work together because you're right, dude. Okay. 65 to 70% of America is these people that are lost and that are pushing the wrong agenda. They're pushing for our own enemies. So I am so thankful.
Yeah.
God bless you, brother. Yeah, I'm going to pause. Let's connect. All right. I'm going to follow you. Let's connect.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. I've spent the last 9 years studying, and it's appalling, quite frankly, what Christian pastors don't understand about the Bible. And it's right there in black and white. And, Jesus said that their father was the devil. And then right afterward, he said, and because I tell you the truth, you believe me not. And most of Christianity makes Christ a false accuser and says, no, their father really isn't the devil. That isn't what he meant. I know, yeah, that's what he said, but that isn't what it means. And they just make Christ a false accuser. And it's ridiculous.
Hold on.
I'm sorry. You're right, AR. I get excited because I love this topic so much. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll pause.
I know. We'll just raise your hand. I don't want, because when that happens, like Tracy gets really upset. Cause
you're right, and Tracy was right for kicking me the other night. I got overly excited. My bad. I'm sorry.
It's not that we don't want to hear what you have to say. It's just people lose their talking points. I know Byers is good, so, but just raise your hand, all right, brother? Thank you. Go ahead, Byers.
So, anybody who sees the real problem, which it seems like the people in this space understand it, so many, I would say the vast majority of Christianity, even globally, is glorifying the people that killed Christ, and they don't even understand it. And I started making videos about, 7, almost 8 months ago now, explaining what I found in the Bible. And I'm a nobody. I'm nobody's nobody, but I've managed to accumulate almost 22,000 views on Rumble, which is a pretty tough platform to build on. But it at least started out not run by the Jews, so there was real free speech there. And so I just started making videos, and my target market is the Christians. It's the way I was raised. I was raised Judeo-Christian, and it took a lot of digging and just letting the Bible actually say what it says and just accept it and believe it, that kind of got me on this path. And so that's what I do with my Sundays now. I was kicked out of my church because after 19 years of being a faithful member of the same church, and the pastor was my best friend, he actually helped my 17-year-old daughter run off with a 27-year-old divorced man and kicked me out of the church. And now they've accepted them back into the church. And I'll never see or speak to my daughter again because of what they've done. And they sided with all my enemies, including my in-laws, who actually encouraged the secret relationship behind me and my wife's back. And it's the greatest heartache of my life. And had that not happened, I actually see a silver lining in all of that, and that I don't think I ever would have made videos and posted them online because it would offend my pastor. And obviously I have no allegiances left to him. And so I started making videos and just telling anybody and everybody who will listen about the Jews and about the real truth of what the Bible really teaches about them.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome, Byers. You know what? You're doing what you need to do for you and your family. And you know what? We're to the point in our life right now where we don't really give a crap. I would really like to say something else, but I know you don't like swearing. But we don't really give a crap what other people think nowadays. It's about us and how we take care of us and our people. And you know what? When you go and you start speaking the truth and getting that out there, they hate it and they keep pushing back on us. That's what we're seeing right now. The Jews, and that's not just the Jews. It's other people too, other groups. They're starting to see all this, and they're scared. But that's because we're continuing to speak, and we got to make sure that we don't stop doing it. So
yeah, my like I was averaging like 100 views a day for 10 days in a row, and then all of a sudden I got no views for 2 straight days. And so my X account is heavily censored and stuff. And so I was like, well, that kind of spurred me on, and I'd spent some time doing this in the past. I've actually one preacher who was down in South Carolina, I went to his church and I stayed after and I showed him what I found, and he did a complete 180 on his stance on Israel. And he called me a few times and we talked again and again to kind of clarify things for him, and it completely changed his entire church, you know. And so I really think that's where the victory needs to be won. And you know, I've had limited success in it, but most pastors actually hear me out and say, well, that's really interesting, I'll have to give that a look. And who knows if they ever really do. But you know, I tell all the people in the foyer too. I tell everybody who will listen. I'm like, you guys got to get out of bed with the whore of Babylon. And the Bible says that only Jerusalem could kill a prophet in Luke 13. And it says that, oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets in Matthew 23. And so how is it that God avenges the blood of the prophets on the whore of Babylon in Revelation 18 unless the whore of Babylon is Jerusalem? And that's just one of many proofs and evidences. Actually, yesterday I made a new video. It's my 8th video, and the name of that video is going to be The Whore of Babylon. And I hoped to go through and like list every attribute of the whore of Babylon and prove how that is actually Israel. But there's just so much evidence. There was no way to fit that in a video. I don't know how long that video is yet, but I would say it's probably an hour and 45 minutes, and I covered less than half of my information in it. I was just like, no one's going to watch a 4-hour video. So I kind of had to cut it short. But yeah, if anybody wants to, my Rumble page is called Bill Byers Truth, and I recommend that people start at the bottom of my videos and start there, and then work your way up, and see if I don't have the receipts, because I've never been more sure of anything in all my life.
Well, if you want, Byers, you can throw it down in the purple pill, or you can throw it up in the nest. I mean, I trust you, but let's go to Kairos and Travis. You had your hand up too.
Yeah, Travis jumped in. That's awesome. Byers, dude, let's talk. I would love to work together. I am so pumped to take out the Jews with this stupid false doctrine that they put in our own Christian churches. I am so pissed. I'm so angry. And when I talked to my deacon today about it, it was so funny because it was about a month ago when I first put him on. I said, where do you get your belief from? You know, very honest question. Where do you get your belief from? I asked him, I asked him a question. He responded, and I said, so you're a dispensationalist. Well, that's not acceptable as a deacon of the Catholic Church. And he was like, what do you mean I'm a dispensationalist? And he got very defensive. And I said, well, that point that you just raised is dispensationalism that does not come from our own.
Public
That does not come from us. And he was like, are you sure? And I said, yeah, look it up. You're the expert here. You're my deacon. You should be teaching me. And he got humored, and we had a good conversation. We're sitting in pew side by side. And yeah, man, a month later,
At this point, I wouldn't be Catholic or Baptist or Protestant or any of those things, man. I'm a follower of the book. The Rothschilds took over the finances of the Vatican in 1850. And, you notice the Pope wears the same funny little hat the Jews wear. And the Pope's big fancy hats all have the Star of Remphan on it. And it's even all the way back in the New Testament, the Judaizers were sneaking into the church and corrupting the doctrine. And it's recorded in the New Testament. The Apostle Paul called them false brethren, crept in unawares. In Galatians 3, he says, "O foolish Galatians, who hath bewitched you that you should not obey the truth?" And the people who had bewitched them were the Judaizers who had snuck into the church and tried to corrupt the doctrine and get people to go back to the law of Moses and tell the Gentiles they needed to be circumcised and all that garbage, And so it's not like it's a new thing. They've been infiltrating and corrupting the church since the days of the apostles.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. So I'm gonna tell you how crazy it is me converting this deacon to being at a position I am. So I want to follow up on my train of thought. The craziest part about this is Byers' brother. This guy is living in Huntsville, Alabama, military industrial complex town. The fact that he has taken the position that agrees with my own is absolute insanity. It proves that he really does adhere to truth. And so, yeah, you could get all into the Vatican, and I'm more than happy to talk to you privately about the Pope. I have very similar kind of understanding, but I'll tell you this, there's two completely different reasons that they both wore the yarmulke. The yarmulke that the Jews are like the black people. They try to say that, oh yeah, we were this, we were kings and shit. We were popes and shit. They're all fucking liars. They're all speak nothing of the truth. They got two truths and one lie every time. So we can talk about this more in DMs, but yeah. What I'm saying is that there's a point to all of this, and the point is that this guy is in a place that has Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and Boeing, and he understands where I'm coming from, and he spoke of this today at service. So the fact that I'm making some impact on my own ground, I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful for all of you. I love you all. And I'm so thankful for everything all of you have done to help me. God bless everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Kairos. Travis, did you want to jump in? And then Comply has her hand up.
Yeah, Byers, you sound like a great student of theology. I'm sure, not only studying the book and understanding the depth of it has served you well, but I also would assume that having all these encounters with priests and even those of the church, who each respective church you go to, has kind of helped you curate a structure of approach when talking to people, in a structure in such a way that it's digestible, and it can really only be done in one way. It's person to person, and it's not spurging out online like some of these anti-Abrahamic spaces, these retards. I say that, with consideration, that they're just, kind of ignorant in many ways. But I feel like that's a great utility of what, amassing a certain level of experience, and that experience kind of forming this structure of approach. I wonder, are any of your videos, I know you probably delve into the context of what you're talking, about the book, its relationship and its misinterpretations of how the Jews, whatever word you want to call them, have used those misinterpretations to subvert what they've subverted. But I feel like, if you haven't already, a great utility would be to go in depth about, it was just what I just prefaced this with, which is how you structure these approaches with talking to people of a faith, of the Christian faith. Because I feel like that's really that's of it. Impossible to understate importance, that structured approach. And it's, if you arm people even with just a baseline of it, and it's really difficult, I'm sure, to even go in depth about it. You just have to do it yourself. But then again, there are people who are better than me at just describing it. So I'm sure you can convey it in a digestible way. But that could help people, because I feel like that's a big roadblock. They spurg out on random verses and of scripture, and they do it in a way where they don't capture a person's attention, and more importantly, don't inspire a person to pursue this line of thinking themselves. And that's really what the end goal, isn't it? It's to inspire whomever you're talking to put down what you thought was what was real, and lead them into the realization that these are misinterpretations of the text you hold sacred. I had another question, Bo. I'll let you respond, and I can circle back so we don't take up too much of the space.
Yeah,
Thank you. So,
hold on, Byers, because Comply had her,
okay,
and then we'll go to you.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead, Comply.
That's fine. I'm patient. I just wanted to ask you: do you read the King James Version Bible?
Yes, I'm a King James guy. That's what I grew up with. To be honest, I wish I knew better the Geneva Bible. I wish that was the one that I was raised in, but I'm 46 and it's a little late
Geneva
to change.
Sorry, I was trying to bring someone up and I accidentally muted one. My bad.
Yeah, so the Geneva Bible was from 1599, and the King James was 1611. And King James actually outlawed the Geneva Bible, I think largely in part to a specific verse that you probably can quote out of the King James, where it says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against rulers of darkness in high places. That scripture, you got to go look that scripture up in a Geneva Bible, because in the Geneva Bible, it makes, yeah. Go ahead.
Read it. You do your thing. I'm gonna go find it and read it. I got
okay. You. Okay. So
no more interrupting her. Okay.
In a Geneva Bible, that verse makes it plain that it is the governors who are the rulers of darkness, and King James didn't like that because that labeled him as the problem, and so he outlawed the Geneva Bible and had his own Bible translated.
Thank you for clarifying. I'm going to check out the Geneva.
So I'd like to respond to Travis, if that's okay.
Yeah, you sure can.
Okay, thank you. So I've tried to identify who my market is, and I think I'm pretty uniquely fitted to combat Judaism, like Judeo-Christianity. And so having been brought up in it all my life and having thought that way, I know all their positions pretty well. And through a very thorough examination of the Bible, I see the flaws in their thinking and why it's wrong. And so I've tried to do that in a way that is palatable to them, so I don't just, a lot of people just shut down right away. And so my first video that I made is called The Gospel of the Kingdom, which is pretty benign to most Christians. They would go, oh, I'll watch something called the Gospel of the Kingdom. But that video is actually an expose on Galatians 3 and Galatians 4. And Galatians 3 shows you that the only heir of Abraham is actually Jesus Christ, and was never a plural seed, and it was never the nation of Israel. And then the allegory of Galatians 4 actually shows that Abraham and his two wives is an allegory about God and his two covenants, and that Hagar represents Jerusalem, the bondwoman, because she was born in Jerusalem, was born in bondage under the law of Moses, and therefore her children have no inheritance from God.
Very good. Yeah, my other question is, I know you don't delve into this topic. I would imagine, and you focus more on the Jewish subversion of the Bible itself. But I feel like a sub-subversion of what they've done is not just subvert Jesus and his word, and God's word for that matter, and kind of reverse their involvement in the Bible, reverse the polarity, if I'm making any sense. But you may have delved in this or not, but what would you, as far as your estimation, see as far as God's intent to keep tribes separate? And I speak specifically as far as races go, not only with miscegenation, but also with just nations as they are. Do you feel like, I'm sure you have a personal belief for one way or the other, but I would like to hear that as well, but do you feel like Christianity supports that separation, and that God in his perfection, his infallibility, create an architecture that is what we see before us in nature, where every nation is separate, every people in their own continent, in their own region, manifested there for a reason. It was part of his architecture. Do you see it that way, or do you feel like it should be a blending, like the Muslims, like Islam, for example, who feels they need to bring Quran everywhere, and subsequently that means creating a mud race? I've had many discussions with Muslims where they would say, as long as someone is able to read the Quran, that they will marry and have children with them. I'm like, okay, does that include a pygmy, right, from New Guinea, right? Does that mean, like, it does not matter, like, if they're the most genetically distant from you as possible? Like, no, it does not matter, right? So, and even then, but that, again, to me, in my estimation, is complete hubris and arrogance to feel that you were somehow entrusted with altering God's original architecture, that is each independent race, in order to foster what you feel is a superior architecture, or architecture or a design that you are able to manifest in your mind and in your heart that God wasn't able to. If he was able to, why wouldn't he have done that initially? It kind of opens up a very interesting thought experiment, right? I would just like to get your thoughts on that. I know you probably have, you need to battle one thing at a time with Eve. I know for a fact you probably haven't, and if I could guess, you probably wouldn't have had the discussion with many people, but I'd like to hear your thought on it.
Well, really quick, because Tracy dropped out and she's trying to get back up. So Tracy, if you could just dip out, close the app down, and then come back, and maybe I can bring you back in as a co-host. And then I think it was Buyers or Kairos, and then Protector.
Can I follow up with Buyers' point earlier? Talk about the Geneva Bible. I have the text right here.
If you want.
So yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got to say. I don't have anything else to say. So great point. 1599 Geneva Bible was one of the best probably versions we ever got in English. But so here's what it says. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against worldly governors. To your point, thank you so much. The princes of darkness of this world against spiritual wickedness, which are in high places. But it says something different than any other Bibles. It calls them worldly governors. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for looking that up for us. I appreciate it. So, Travis, that's a very complicated question, and I'll do my best to answer it as sincerely as I can. So, I believe that anything that we do as humans to alter God's original design is wickedness. I believe that women dye in their hair pink and purple because that's not found in nature. I believe that is rebellion against God. I believe that God made the races. I think that's pretty evident. However, I'm not a racist, as some would say, in that I don't believe that we should dislike all the other races. I don't see a problem with supporting our own and them supporting their own also, by the way. And Jesus told his disciples, "Go ye therefore into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the earth." So I don't think that everybody has to stay on their continent. I do see that, this is a Jewish plot right now to exterminate the white race. I think because we're the only ones who were ever successful at kicking them out of our countries, and we stand as the only real threat to their global domination. And so, through the use of our own government, which is occupied by the Jews, they have caused all the civil unrest in all of the Arab nations and torn down governments and caused, genocides of different sects of the Muslims, causing that unrest that then is the excuse for why all these Muslims have to go into all the countries of Europe and America and Canada and all of that. And so it's really at its root, it's the Jews who are pushing all of this, which the Jews do everything they can do that's contrary to God. So I think, I hope that answers your question as best as I can.
No, it's excellent.
Yeah, and just really quick. So I did put up in the Jumbotron, there is just a friendly reminder: Jews follow Satan, just as the Bible instructs us. So it's about a 6-minute video. If you want to check it out, it is a good video, but it's disgusting. I watched it. My daughter came in and she's like, "Are you kidding me, Dad?" And I'm like, "Yeah. See, this is the satanic shit that we are going through." And I'm glad that your eyes are opening. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna kind of play something that anyone who has ears should hear.
Well,
this is coming from a rabbi. I can pause, but I would love to play this to everyone who's up.
Okay, well, let's go to Travis really quick, and I'm still trying to bring Tracy back up as a co-host. So, if she can't co-host Overwatch, would you be able to do it?
I could do it for a little while. Yeah, I'm at the.
Yeah, let me try to bring her back up, and if she can't, I did DM her. I haven't gotten a response yet, but if I can't, then I'll bring you up for just if you can do it just for a little while, however long you can. It's always appreciated. Just because we get a lot of people come in here and try to spam the nest and shit like that. So,
the spaces for about a month have worked better with double co-hosts for some reason.
Yeah.
I think that's why the general started doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me try to bring her back up, and if she can't come up, then I'll bring you in. So, and I appreciate it. But Travis, go ahead, and then we will go to Kairos and then Byers.
Yeah, no, you answered honestly. That's all I ask. Yeah, I didn't particularly disagree. I mean, I agree with about 90% of it. And I mean, around 100% as far as what the accuracy of the Bible, as far as what Jesus stated. But I like posing thought experiments. So the Haitians, they were provided with Catholicism. And we see anywhere where there's non-whites, as soon as they adopt or attempt to adopt Christianity, they can never adopt it in its entirety, right? It always seems like, just as far as the reality in front of us, there's always this, they hermaphrodite it, they hybridize it in a way that bastardizes the original recipe, so to speak, right? So with Haitians, they include not only voodoo, but sacrifice of goats and other animals. It feels like there is this genetic inability to manifest Christianity as a whole. And this is just a passive observation. So it kind of speaks to what you can already observe as far as their ability to assimilate into Western society, is that yes, some individuals may have that capacity, while others, well, the vast majority do not. They like the Hispanics, right? They have the Day of the Dead where they worship their ancestors. Isn't that technically idol worship, right? There's always this hermaphroditing of the original, right? And it's that way everywhere you go. They always include it. There's always this blending, and it's not conducive to what Christianity really is as a whole. But that's just my perspective. As far as, like, why doesn't, like, I just want to again pose this thought to her, there are no white people in India's politics or, power, any upper echelons of power or influence. And the same could be said for China or Japan or any of the African countries. Throw a dart at the globe and name one non-white country that has this, Saudi Arabia or any of the Middle Eastern countries. It feels like that we're the only ones forcibly inundated with diversity, so much so that, again, it is occupying the upper echelons of our society, and those in positions that hold the most influence are now inundated with people who are not us. And I'll further add to it, like 2019 statistics, black on white rapes were 19,200 something, while as in white on black rapes were 0, right? 0. So it comes down to a yes, this is what the Bible says, but then it comes down to, well, reality. What, there's a lot of context that you can kind of derive your own conclusions from, but it really comes down to, I feel like it leads me more and more to observe nature as it is, not so much as a deist perspective, but kind of, right? That yes, despite the fact that there were, you could believe that there were divine intervention, there were miracles. I feel like that's not necessary to believe that. If you are to observe just nature as exists in its perfection, that itself is enough reason to believe God exists. If not that, the presence of the ethereal evil that surrounds us, right? Whether it's the occult practices of this 3,000-year-old death cult that sacrifices and rapes and molests children, and they do so in a very ritualistic way. And it feels, it's an ethereal evil that's not mindless. It actually has a personality. That's not evidence itself that if there were no good to combat that, to counteract that, that's all there would be, right? There would be no good when you looked up at the night sky. There would be no warmth in your heart when you looked at the face of your child. None of that would exist if this ethereal evil was the only thing present. So I feel like looking at even just the perfection of nature as it is manifested, that itself, without divine intervention or the belief of miracles, is itself enough, is sufficient. So if we were just to observe natural law, like as nature has manifested itself, we can see that there are ethnicities that are wholly incompatible. And yes, there are always outliers, right? There are always outliers, blacks, Hispanics, that can, to some capacity, assimilate. But I always counter with the fact that the vetting process to civically vet these people is not just a monetary cost, it is a cost that cannot be calculated. It is the cost of your daughter being stabbed in the neck, like Irina. It's the cost of your 2-year-old being dragged onto railroad tracks and lit on fire like they would, like the kid in Louisiana. It's like the 2-year-old in the shopping cart being stabbed by the black woman in his neck and killed while she grins ear to ear in court. It is the 9-year-old whose basketball goes into the black neighbor's yard and is shot. In all these cases, there is not the reverse, right? It's important to note that. Why isn't there the reverse, Travis? Well, we know for a fact there's not a reverse, because if there was, it'd be George Floyd times 10, right? They burned cities down for a fentanyl addict who pointed guns at pregnant women. You think if there was some innocent black child who was brutalized by white people, that would go unnoticed? Hell no. Hell no. So that's how I always introduce it, right there. I look at, I observe nature as it is, and I observe the reality around us. I am not going to sacrifice the safety of those most vulnerable to me just so I can bring them closer to Jesus. That is not my, right? If I say I'm Christian, right? But there are those who do not. They say, oh, well, if you do not want to bring the word of God to them, because even though that would mean increasing the potential for those closest to you to be harmed, those closest to you, whom of which it is your ward to protect, even then, shame on you. Shame on me. I'm not Christian, man. But I consider myself Christian. I just am. I take my responsibilities to protect those I love very seriously. And it is, Travis, in those responsibilities, I refuse to put them at risk in order to bring them closer to Jesus, whom of which they are, I believe, incapable of manifesting that love without hermaphroditing and bastardizing the original purpose of it. But I'll land there.
Yeah, that was good, Travis.
I agree. Can I give Travis some solace here? Because,
we do have a lot of hands though, Cairo. So if you wanted to tell us,
I just want to run something to him real quick because I understand.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Then we go to buyers and then Overwatch.
Yes, and then I have that recording I want to play last because so they can get their point out first.
All right, and just make sure that you raise your hand when you want to speak, so we can get to everybody. Got
no problem. Right, I was first, but no problem. Yes. Travis, so well, can you release your mic real quick? And what was the point you said? You're like, I don't know, something about being a good Christian. What was that?
I've ranted long enough. Buyers probably.
Yeah, I mean, I love it.
I mean, it's. As far as, be a good Christian, I feel like it's directly tied with this idea that you need to bring love and the word of Jesus around the world, right, to all these races. And that would be fine. But then there needs to be a separation. You can do that. Like, that's your own volition, right? Your own, that you can do that. You have the will, you can do that. But it's then to bring these people to our landmass and inundate them around our neighborhoods, our schools, and we'll just civically vet the ones who aren't violent. And that vetting process is costly and is not a monetary cost. It costs in blood, and we have proven that. Even in the 50s, blacks were 50% of the population committing over 60% of violent crime and over 40% of nonviolent arrests. And that was before rap culture. And I'm just make the argument, the cost to vet is, so as far as bad Christians go, the fact that I myself am unwilling to subject the most vulnerable around me, and even not my own family. I see my neighbors' kids playing, I think of them too, right? Like that.
You brought me back, bro. You brought me back. Run your shit out. You brought me back. Appreciate it.
But that's the whole, if you're not willing, there needs to be a line drawn where being a good Christian isn't bringing those people here, but instead, yes, bring the word. I feel like I agree completely. Yeah. Yes, bring the word. Yes, bring the word. But they stay there, right? God put them there for a reason. They stay there, and this nation is for us and our posterity. And we see the repercussions, right? Even if you don't believe in divine intervention, we see the repercussions of stepping outside of God's perfect architecture. And that is what we see before us. We see the dissolution of our society slowly working its way close to the cliff, as the way once living in high trust societies where now you're not, right? Not only do you need to lock your vehicles, that's the least of your worries. Now it's that your children are getting their heads stoved in school by non-whites who are just cheering and gleeing. And to just all
How
for
old
that,
are you?
I'll answer. All for that, just to vet the small percentage who could assimilate, and to expect that genetics doesn't exist and that their children will be perfect, which is bullshit. Their children will still manifest that same behavior because culture is a direct manifestation of genetics. I'm 34.
Okay, so really quick. Really quick. Wait. No. Hold on. So, Kairos, I know that you love this conversation and where it's going, but you're jumping in and out, and then Travis is rugging here and there. So this is my space. It's actually all of our spaces, but this is how we're going to run it. So if you want to have a back and forth, you need to let me know that you want to do that, because we do have hands. So but you just can't jump in and out like that. It's not fair to the other people, okay? So if you want to ask Travis a question, you're kind of yielding your time, because people will start leaving, and then people get bored. They want to hear other conversations going.
That's fair. I just want to make one point.
Okay, well, hold on, because you did yield your time to Travis. I know you want to do your thing, but I want to go to buyers and then Overwatch, and that we can come back to you. Just raise your hand. And I know Carl.
I appreciate it. No problem, man.
No, you're not starting a problem. It's just you're new to our spaces, and we love that you're an ethnic American and you want to be a part of this. But we have lines that we can't cross, and you're crossing a few of them right now. And I'm just trying to put you back in line, because everybody wants to hear what you have to say, but they also want to hear what everybody else has to say too. So we do appreciate you being here, and we do want to hear what you have to say. But right now, I do want to go to buyers, and then we're going to go to Overwatch. If you want to talk, raise your hand again. Otherwise, I know Carr wants to talk too. So, but thank you, Kairos. But go ahead, buyers.
So first, I got to give a shout out to Susie Q. She's the one who invited me to the space, and I'm really glad that I joined. And I appreciate the conversation here. Good job handling that, AR. And Kairos, love you, but yeah, you got to get some manners. Anyhow, something I'd like to share with you guys, just a couple of quick things that I've noticed from the Bible. So in Genesis chapter 3, we see God curse the serpent, and he said that the seed of the serpent would have enmity with the seed of the woman. So in Genesis 3, we see the devil has his own children, his own seed. And then 4,000 years later, Christ is born of a virgin, making him the only seed of a woman in world history. And it's not a coincidence that it was the Jews who hated and killed him, because it was the seed of the serpent that would have enmity with the seed of the woman. And more to that point, in Isaiah chapter 14 and verse 20, we find a phrase that's only used twice in the entire Bible. And the phrase is seed of evildoers. And that phrase is used as the definition of the devil's people in Isaiah 14:20. And I recommend people read and reread Isaiah 14 until it starts making some sense to you. But Satan actually claims that he's going to rule the world from Jerusalem in Isaiah 14. And anyhow, that phrase seed of evildoers is only found one other place. It is also in the book of Isaiah, and it's Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 4, where it is undeniably the nation of Israel is the seed of evildoers and a people that are corrupters. And I think that shouldn't be lost on Christianity. Like that means something. And, you won't find anybody in the Bible who's told that they're a child of Satan in any fashion, which it's done many ways in the New Testament, who was not also a Jew. And so Jesus told them plainly straight to their face in John 8:44, you are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father you will do. In Matthew 23, he calls them serpents and a generation of vipers, and that's Jesus talking. And then when the scribes and the Pharisees go to John the Baptist in the wilderness, he looks up and sees them coming. He says, "O generation of vipers, who hath warned you to flee from the wrath to come?" And so these are all references to Satan actually being their father. And Matthew 23 also calls them the children of hell. And, I think that's more than ample evidence to prove the point.
Yeah, no, that was good, Byers. And you know what? Maybe these are God's chosen people. He was the one that chose them for all of us to watch out for. That's the way I look at it. Overwatch.
Well, can I respond to that real quick? I got a really great point.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. And then we have Overwatch.
Okay. Sorry. So the phrase chosen has neither a good or a negative connotation to it. It's just chosen, right? It can be chosen for whatever. And the context into which Israel is God's chosen people, which the Bible says.
I appreciate y'all hanging out. This is a public discourse. We went through a lot of different spaces and a lot of different viewpoints. We just hear people out and try to flesh it out, because we're seekers of truth here on my channel. Love you guys. Hope y'all have a good night's sleep.